Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest. Bring the microphone over might help. The latest Wild Art Photographer of the Year event. And tonight we're going to be talking space with Josh Galicki. And I'm going to be taking Josh on in a little bit of a battle we've got going on called Space Skirmish. We've done a couple of these before. I hope you've seen those. But anyway, it's your chance as our audience to get involved and judge the judges' pictures. So we'll get to talking to Josh right after this. Evening, Josh, or afternoon for you, isn't it?
Hey, yeah. Good afternoon, good evening for everybody across the pond. Good to see you, Rob.
Yeah, hey, what did you think of the intro music?
I liked it. It was very spacey, actually. It was kind of a little psychedelic, little rock. It was pretty cool.
Exactly. Yeah, it was the first time Josh and I spoke. All those months and months ago, we realised we shared a similar taste in music. So I thought we'd go a little bit. Yeah, I thought we'd go a little bit rocky tonight. A little bit rocky with a bit of a space vibe. So yeah. Anyway, hope everybody enjoyed that. Yeah. Well, welcome to Space Skirmish. I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it should be a lot of fun. I've watched a few of the battles, if you will, before, and they were very entertaining. Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah, they were good. Well, I can't believe I came out on top of William actually last time. I think he was robbed actually. So I outstoried him.
It was good fun, actually. I enjoyed it, especially the stories behind the photos and the like, and how it relates to the contest. It's really cool. They're fun.
Yeah, well, I'm really going to have to pull some stories out of the bag tonight. I can tell you, I know what Josh has got lined up. Don't fancy my chances. Anyway, we'll see. We'll see. Anyway, let's talk a little bit before we get going about space, because obviously this is something that we ran last year, but it was Andy Rouse that was in charge of it last year. But it was a really popular category, and I loved the stuff that came in for it. I thought, people really got a good handle on what the category was all about last year. But what are you looking for, in the category, Josh?
Yeah, I'll tell you, I'm really looking forward to it too. Last year I did eyes, which was more tighter compositions. Of course, space it's going to be much looser. But, I think when it comes to space, and honestly, some of my favorite focal lengths when it comes to wildlife photography, especially artistic wildlife photography, it's those looser focal lengths. So I'm looking for images that not only can display wildlife with, great minimalism, but also environment. When I think of space, it can be minimalistic, but it also can be environmental in terms of showing the animals' habitat and where they live and so forth. So there actually is some diversity, actually a lot of diversity in the category and how it could be interpreted. Yeah. So it should be a lot of fun. And you could actually create space with a variety of focal lengths too. You're not limited to just a wide angle lens.
We share some of those images as well. So anyway, Josh is frozen on me. I don't know whether everybody else can still see and hear him. Anyway, while he's frozen on me, yeah. Anyway, Josh, you're back. I don't know. I don't know if I don't know if you froze for everybody else, but you froze for me. It might be my internet connection, but anyway, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
Right. A couple of comments coming in, so let's deal with those first. So JG says, "Good evening, everyone from the UK." Vicky Santello's on. Hi, Rob. I'm looking forward to another creative webinar. Hi, Vicky. Hope you're doing well. Mal Ostwick, evening, Robert, Josh, and all from North Yorkshire. Hi, Mal. How's the flower photography going, by the way? Mal's been taking some of my tips and tricks on using long lenses for photographing flowers. So yeah. Rachel Piper's on. Hi, Rachel. Hi, everyone. She says, Ben Pullitz. Hello, Rob and Josh. Hi, Ben. Hope you're well. Okay, and Vicky says no tech issues for me with Josh's screen freezing. It must be me. My internet connection, honestly, it's so frustrating. I've tried two things, and at the moment I'm running on a 4G because my fiber, even though it's really quick, seems to break up all the time. I don't know what goes anyway. So hopefully we'll be free of any tech issues, and if Josh freezes on me, then I'll carry on as if he hadn't. Alan James is on as well, and he says, hi Rob and Josh. Hi Alan, hope all's well. So do comment obviously as we go through the evening, and we are relying on you to score the images as we go through. So the format is that there are 5 rounds. Josh and I have each got 5 images, so we'll pair images as we go through, and then after each round we'll ask you to score, and we'll go and talk about something else while all those comments are coming through. So I think we've done a couple of these before with Georgina and with William for previous rounds. So I think most people on have got the gist of it by now. But anyway, shall we? I mean, I'll get on. We'll talk about a few other things as we go along, because I've got some news and bits and pieces to share with everybody. But let's get to sharing some images. And yeah, let's start off with round 1. I tell you, this stuff coming up. Josh has got some amazing stuff. Oh dear, why do I do this? Why do I put myself through it? Anyway, let me share this with everybody. So this is, as always, the judge goes first. So this is a ringneck duck. Go on, Josh. Give us the story behind this. I love this. It's brilliant.
Yeah, thanks. I actually just took this a few months ago. I was in Yellowstone in the wintertime, and Yellowstone in the winter is absolutely beautiful. It's my favorite time to be there, actually. In terms of the high key, the diffusion with the snow, just beautiful, beautiful, beautiful scenery. This ringneck duck, when I saw it, actually, it was one of those things where I was walking back from a shoot, and I looked down and I saw this duck floating, and I love the textures. The lines were great, and what was really cool about this shot that I think is kind of neat, the water looks like ice and the ice looks like water. It's kind of inversed, if you will, which I think is kind of cool. But it was all about the lines and the textures for me when I saw this, and it's just one of those things where when you're in cold environments like this, and you have a lot of wide open spaces, you can create things. And it also helps too when your subjects are relatively dark as well, because the surroundings are normally bright.
So what are you doing in terms of exposure compensation here, just so people know?
A lot of these high key, I'm +2, maybe even higher than that, sometimes +3, just depends. A lot of it's to taste, because you're blowing out the whites. It's just a matter of how much do you want to blow it out. The technical challenge is when you do blow the whites out, the fringes, when you get the midtones and some of the other issues, the artifacts that can show up. But +2 and above, frankly, for most of my images.
Because I mean, the metering will try and turn this gray anyway, won't it? So you're going to need to dial in some sort of exposure compensation. But I mean, I've gone as far as +4 at times. It's just play around with this sort of thing, and going the other way as well with swans and in coming into light with out of shade and that sort of stuff. It's all good fun. Yeah,
it lightens the midtones too. The blues even get a little lighter as you go further down on the so it works really well.
Yeah, so it's worth experimenting, and it's something I'm probably going to do a video on the YouTube channel when I get around to it. I've been doing a lot of flowers at the moment. I'm aware that I've been flowering people out, but it is spring, hey, and they don't fly away. Yeah. That's the thing.
This is true.
I've been sort of thinking, how am I going to do stuff on birds by myself? Anyway, I'm sure I'll work it out. But yeah, I'm going to do some stuff on sort of high key and low key techniques as we go through the year. I mean, I've got these sort of things planned out. It's just a question of time with everything. But okay. So that's Josh's image, and we were laughing about this off air. Actually, this happened with William, and I honestly swear to people that I put these in a hat and I just drew them randomly, but they've come out paired extraordinarily weird. It's just. Anyway, Josh has got a duck. I've only got one duck, and guess what's next? My duck. So this is a tufted duck, and this was taken on. I've got, as people will probably know by now, 3 local lakes that I shoot all the time, and this is a place I know really, really well. And I know where the light, when the light comes in, when the conditions are going to be favorable, you can almost guarantee it. And this was part of my sort of, rehabilitation at the beginning of the year from sort of having a really rough year last year photographically, and with my, you know, with my sort of self-confidence, you know, these are the places that I went back to. And this is from one of those sort of early sessions, because I guess this must be, I'm just looking at the file number. Yeah, this will be February. So this will be sort of a month in, you know, I'm starting to get my confidence back. Things are starting to go well. And I'm starting to think about how differently I can shoot, you know, the waterfowl, because it's, you know, we could, you know, the easiest shots, I think, are the close ones, because, you know, the compositions kind of work out for themselves, because you're going in tight on a bird. And as long as you've got decent light, you're going to get a decent shot. It's when you come away and you put it in its environment that it gets more tricky, I think. So I loved experimenting with these, because it was just one of those days where they wouldn't come in close. So I thought, fine, I'll just shoot them, you know, in the environment. And that there's you can probably just make out some faint lines in the background, which is a post and rail fence, which is just catching the light. And then you know, the mist is all backlit, and it's just one of those fabulous winter mornings where it's really cold, and this thing just swam on. Normally they're in quite tight groups on this lake, but this was out on its own. And talking about exposure compensation, I'm probably 2 stops under here, you know, to get that sort of silhouette in the dark feel. So anyway, so this is, yeah, this shot is part of my rehabilitation.
The light is great on that, Rob. And I'll tell you, if you take the tuft out, it looks just like the subject in my shot. Very similar, yeah.
Exactly. But that's what I like about the tufted ducks. And that's what I like when you get that tuft out like that, you know what it is immediately. And it doesn't need to be any detail in the bird for people to know, you know, to know what it is. So,
yeah, it works great for a silhouette. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, there is a bit of detail in that, you know, in the whites here, but, you know, you know, the dynamic range is quite broad, obviously, with the whites and the blacks, but yeah. So they have it. They're the first 2 images. So let me just refresh your memory on Josh's. So it's either the ring-necked. In fact, it's incredible how these are different in terms of their sort of high key and low key almost as well. So it's amazing how they've been paired. So Josh's high key ring neck, or my low key tufted. So yeah, okay. So we'll give people sort of 2 or 3 minutes to comment and vote. A couple of comments. Oh, Jane O'Connor's on. Hi, Jane. Hi, Rob and Josh. Looking forward to this. Kurum Khan's on, who you'll know, of course, Josh. He says, hi, guys. Hi, Kurum. And Eli Porat. Hello, everybody. Hello, Eli. Hope you're well. And actually, while we've got Eli and Rachel on, well, let's talk about Desert Island Pics just quickly, because I haven't got any more of those lined up on the YouTube channel yet, but those are probably they probably are the next 2 people that will be on Desert Island Pics. So we've got Rachel and Eli when I sort some dates out with them. So so look out for those. It's just trying to squeeze everything in at the moment, because we've got some awards presentations we need to try and catch up on. And while I'm on the subject of awards presentations, trying to agree a date with Andy at the moment for silhouettes. He's been away in Svalbard. I think he's back this week. But the problem is I then go away for a week. So unless we can get a really swift sort of presentation in this week, which I very much doubt, and I like to plan these things anyway, it's probably going to be the week after next, which sort of takes us well into June. So apologies for that, but it's just the way things work out sometimes. So we're probably going to do back-to-back awards presentations, because I've agreed with Peter Bambusek that we're going to do Eyes, the awards presentation, on the 19th of June. So I'll be releasing that top 100 this week. I'm going to try and get it out as early as I can to give people as much time as possible to give me the raw files and the high res files. So Tuesday, Wednesday, look out for that. I'll send everybody an email, but I'll try and get it out as soon as I can. So we're going to go for an awards presentation for that, I think, on the 19th. So you'll have a couple of weeks, you know, to send me those high res files. So if you get the email, you know, do let us have those as soon as you can. That'd be great. Right. So let's give everybody a little bit more time. We've got some votes coming in. So we'll see. So I think as we sort of alluded to in the chat beforehand, I think that space is one of the most difficult categories. Actually, it's one of the most interesting. But to take an image where the concentration is not only on the subject, but it's placing it in its environment, if you like, I think is really quite tough.
Yeah, I agree with you, Rob. I think when it comes to composition skill, that really is a huge factor in the equation when you're taking photos that include space. If you look at a lot of the diagnostic shots, close to the animal, you get the shot, and you rule of thirds and so forth. When you introduce a whole environment around that, again, whether it's minimalism, whether it's the animal's habitat, it becomes a lot more complicated. And I think when it comes to the rules of composition, the usage of light, there's many more variables in there. So I would totally agree with you.
Yeah, and actually, isn't it funny how you can create a much more interesting image a lot of the time when you actually pull back, go a little bit further out, and think about other elements in the frame. I was talking to Kurum about this, when he came on and did Desert Island Pics, and he was saying that almost that sort of 600mm lens is almost redundant. And it's now 70 to 200 or whatever.
I love that focal length. 70 to 200 for wildlife is an incredible focal length, and it's so versatile. I think you can do so much with that. If it's large wildlife or you're close, it's great for portraiture. Also for space, for wider views and so forth. But 70 to 200 is a great focal length.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Oh, I think I know where this is heading. Shall we have a quick tot up of the scores? Let's have a little look. Right. Here we go. Oh, no, well, actually, it might be close. Okay. So JG, Rob tufted ducks. That's one to me. I might have to write this down, actually. 1 to me. Alan James says, a vote for you, Rob. That's 2. There's some coming for you, Josh. Don't worry. I've seen them. Tufted for me, Rob, says Mal Ostwick. So that's 3. All right. So Eli says, Andy just got back. So yeah, I thought he had. And he's voting for you. So that's 3-1. Jane O'Connor says, I love them both, but I particularly like the warm golden glow on Rob's tufty. Well, this might be close, This is 4-1. Vicky Santello says, I'm a huge fan of Yellowstone in winter and spend a lot of time there. Josh did a great job seeing the lines and especially the reversal where the ice looks la la la. So vote for you, Josh. That's 4-2. Kurum's in and he's voting for you. This is this one. So that's 4-3. Hang on, where are we? Vicky says, also want to say I enjoyed the pairing of these two images, even if the random ESP, especially juxtaposition of cooler tones versus warmer tones in the 2 images. Love both of them. Well, thank you. Right. So Rachel says, love them both, but Josh for me this time. That's 4-all, isn't it?
We've got a tie.
It looks like a tie. Hang on. So Catherine says, I vote for Josh, both beautiful images, but love the lines and texture in Josh's. So that's 5-4. And Ben Pullett says, a vote each, both amazing shots. Ben, you got to choose one. Come on, this is on the line. This could be a draw. Come on, Ben. This is 5-4 to Josh. Where's your loyalty? So come on, Ben, one way or the other. We'll wait for that to come in because this is. I thought you'd walk that one. I really did. So thank you, everybody. Oh dear. Come on, Ben. Okay. I'm going to have to give it. Oh, Rob. Hey! So does anybody want the deciding vote? We'll give it 30 seconds. If somebody wants to come in that hasn't voted with a if anybody out there who hasn't voted, give us a vote, and that should decide it. Hang on. So Ben Pullett says Rob. Then Ben, then a smiley face. Eli Porat says, "Where's Ben's loyalty to the crown?" Oh dear. Okay. Yeah. So if nobody else is going to vote, we'll give it another. Tie break. Okay, he says, Eli, that's a really good idea. Actually, should we do rock paper scissors?
God, I haven't done that in years. All right, let's do it.
Okay,
I'm trying to remember which one was.
Yeah. 1, 2, 3. What have you? Oh no! Damn it. Okay. I think that was my one chance to get a point on the board tonight. Damn it. Okay. Right, hold on. I have to do this then. Let's just adjust this accordingly, and we'll get this on the screen. Right. Better show that. Reed takes an early bath. Okay, it was close though. It was close.
Yeah.
I'm pleased about that. Okay, so let's go for your next shot. Oh, it's another one in the snow. There's a theme going on here.
Yeah, this was just taken recently as well in Yellowstone just a few months ago. This was in late January, and it was the coyote breeding season. So one coyote was chasing the other. It was a thermal area, and you can kind of see around this set of trees. I think they lodgepole pines, I'm not sure, but one coyote flew by and the other was chasing. I suspect that was the male here chasing the female, and I waited for him. He was running parallel to this grouping of trees, and I just waited and framed it up, and right in the beginning there I took that shot. I love this little grouping of trees, and the geyser activity around it, and the high key. It adds a lot of atmosphere. I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, I mean, you couldn't have got a sort of more. You had a nice looking clump of trees. Really, I like the symmetry in it.
Mm-hmm.
It's really good. It's so.
There's some nice separation there. Yep.
Yeah, and you don't. These things are quite elusive as well, aren't they, coyotes?
In Yellowstone, not as much. They're more confiding. They're all over the United States. Like I live on the East Coast, and coyotes are everywhere. But trying to get them, even in camera traps, I mean, that I set up a lot, very rarely will I come across coyote. They're extremely skittish out east. I suspect due to persecution and many other things. Out west in some of these open areas, Yellowstone, they're more confiding. You can see behavior, hunting, all of this stuff. Out east, good luck even getting a glimpse of them or a shadow. It's very different, actually.
Because I remember when I was in Canada, they were really quite difficult.
Yeah.
I think we caught a glimpse of a couple, but that was it. They're gone.
Yeah.
So never photographed one. So I'm extremely jealous.
They're amazing animals, and it's a shame, when you look at the persecution. Obviously, their numbers are great, so there's no threat there. But still, it's the public perception of coyotes is unfortunately, in my opinion, a bit misguided. They're beautiful animals, and it's great to see
along with a
them,
lot
frankly.
of things. I mean, it's the same. It's the same. Some perhaps with the fox and the farming community here. It's just it's crazy, really. But anyway, I'm reading a book at the moment. What's it called? It's by Aldo Leopold. It's he's the guy that he wrote it in the 1940s, and it's all about. He's got a farm in Wisconsin, and it's all about. He's writing. This is just obviously just post-war, when the mechanization was really coming in, and the sort of modern farming methods are really coming in and decimating, a lot of the wildlife. And he's writing about, the decline. It's very poetic in some ways, but you think, crikey, if we went back to the 1940s, we'd be surprised at how much more diversity there was. If he was alive now and he saw what had happened, I think he'd be shocked. But anyway,
absolutely,
it's a good book. In fact, I think the last newsletter I sent, there was a quote from it in there. So I'll probably keep giving people a few quotes just to liven up the newsletters from it. So check it out. It's called I'll post it in the next newsletter so people know what it is. But no, it's somebody lent it. A friend of mine lent it to me, and it's really good reading. Right. Okay. Let's see what I've got. So this is a brown hair, and I would call this image Donnie Darko if I was going to give it a title. It's sort of got that feel about it, And I shot it in pretty poor light, and I just think it takes the black and white conversion well, and something I couldn't. Again, sometimes it's difficult to get close, but then again, it's just not necessary at times. So I just thought, no, I'll give it some space. I'll put it in its environment, and I'll give it the black and white treatment when I saw the raw file, I just thought, no, I'll give that the black and white treatment, and I think it works well. It doesn't really work that brilliantly in color because it was so dimpsy. I mean, I don't know what the ISO is on this, but it's probably something like 6,400 or something just to get any shutter speed at all, because there's virtually no light whatsoever. But no, I just that's the way I see them. And I just like the fact that its head's at a slight angle. The ears are just catching the last bit of light that there is. It's obvious what it is to anybody who knows the animal, and it's just sort of staring into this blackness almost, because it's just so dimpsy, and that's almost what it was like at the time. And this was from a couple of years ago, actually, and this is from me going back over old images. When I've got, after I sort of started getting my creativity back this year, I started going back through old pictures and processing them in different ways. So this is a result of one of those. So yeah, kind of, it's minimalist. It's probably two stops under out of necessity to get any shutter speed more than being deliberate, if I'm honest. But it kind of works.
Yeah, we've got low-key, high-key here. So we're on.
It's just and mammal, bird.
Yeah,
it's just, I couldn't believe it the way it shook out. And I honestly, I guarantee everybody, I put them in a hat and drew them just randomly. I promise you. But anyway, so there you go. Those are the two choices. So you've got my hair, or you've got Josh's coyote. So let's chat about something else while we let people vote on those two pictures. Eyes, you helped out with the judging on that the other night, so thank you very much for that.
Yeah, sure.
And we've got the top 100 coming out for that, in a couple of days, or as soon as I can sort it out. Again, that was, there was some really lovely stuff in there.
Yeah, great standard in eyes. One thing that everyone, I think, will see when the top 100 comes out, there's images that have just great expressive content, emotional, but at the same time, which I thought was really cool, there's some very artistic interpretations of the category that are not literal. And it's less about feeling and more interpretation on the category. And those really stood out as well. So it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, it was. So, it's probably one of those categories we may well change around next year and swap out for something else, because I always like to give people new challenges.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, I mean, just again, an amazing, an amazing standard. I mean, that's what's blown me away about this competition. Ever since the first month we did it, the standard has just been, way above my expectations. And to get into that top 100 or to get a prize place, you need something outstanding. It's really, really, the competition is really tough. But it's been great. It's been great to, it's a great problem for the judges to have when they're going through this stuff. So,
once you narrow it down to, the top 10 or so, to look at, and distinguish between the images, it's very difficult because there's so much great content in there, and a diversity of content too, which I think is cool. I mean, you have, inverts, insects, mammals, birds, everything from macro to telephoto. So it's really cool.
Yeah, and it's sort of, and people working with shapes as well, as opposed to, as you're saying, that sort of literal interpretation of eyes. You've got all this going on as well. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. And some great stuff. So, as I said, there's probably going to be 2 back-to-back awards presentations. So apologies for that, but it's just the way it worked out. It's all the now that everything's opening back up again, a lot of the judges are on are running trips, and Andy's obviously been away, and it just so happens he comes back and I go away. So it's just the way it's worked out. But okay, so it's looking not quite so close this time. Let's run through the votes so far and give people another minute or so to get their vote in. But okay, where do we start? Come on, then the tie break. Yeah, okay, right. So right, Vicky says, agree with you 100%. Coyote, Josh, very unappreciated species, even in Yellowstone. Where the wolf is the poster child, and I love the wolf, and I love wolves too. Well, here to that. So Ben Pullett says Josh, so that's 1 to you. Mal Ostwick, Josh for me. JG, Josh for me. Oh,
JG is not me, by the way.
Oh, yes. Vicky says Josh. Oh god, this is looking like a whitewash. Catherine says Josh. Kurum's come to my rescue. My wife says hair, so hair it is. Jane O'Connor says such hugely different images, but tonight I'm in a darker, slightly mysterious mood. So this time I guess it's Rob's hair and his gorgeous clothes. So that's, what's that? About 6'2", isn't it? I'm pulling this back. We might have to have a recount. Rachel Piper says again, love them both, but Rob for me, love the light. Alan James, the hair in the grass, great atmosphere. Fred von Winkleman, hi Fred. It says sorry Rob, the Josh one for me this time, just tuning in. And Christina says Josh. Oh no, you've got it. Eli says Josh as well. So I think that's probably a 2-1 score actually. Oh dear. I told you I was going to be in trouble. Right. Okay. Oh dearie me. Right. Let's edit there. I wish there was an easier way to do this. Oh, I've got to hide it first and then edit it. That's right. Okay. Right. There we go. Oh, I've got some work to do now. Oh, dearie me. Okay. Right. Let's see what's next then. So we'll go past my losing hair. Oh, jeez. I remember similar pictures from another competition.
Yeah, this is
or is it the same one? I can't.
Oh no, this one's different. This is a hermit thrush actually, and this was a camera trap shot. And these birds in North America, they have such an ethereal song. If you ever heard a hermit thrush song, it's magical. And I consider them birds of the northern woods. They're in northern hardwood forests, and further north into the boreal forests in northern U.S. and Canada and so forth. But this particular bird, normally what I'll do in the spring, once I find certain birds, once they're on territory, you have to watch them and study their movements and the like, and see where they're going, where their patterns are. Yeah. This bird, I did this camera trap setup, and normally with these shots, they're very quick. They'll come in, you'll get a snap, and they'll move on. Thankfully, this bird stood there for just a split second, and I composed it to use the root structure, of course, coming out of the left, and it goes up to I think that's it's a hemlock or a red spruce. I can't recall what tree that is, but again, it's endemic of the North Woods where these birds like to breed. And these birds spend the majority of their time foraging on the ground. They're on the ground. So this is where these birds live. And this is kind of where they move around, eating worms and so forth. But I was really happy when I checked my camera. I was like, yes, so you get lucky every once in a while.
I can imagine. Yeah. No, it's an incredible shot. I said I love the framing. It's all about the thought that's gone into that. The framing with the tree, and then there's sort of lovely clumps of sort of moss and whatever. It's just sat in the perfect place.
Yeah, but yeah, I got super lucky.
Well, no, I don't think you did. I think you put the work in, and you have to be lucky that the bird sits there, like that for enough time. But you've done the homework. You've seen where it sings from, presumably, and framed it all up and spent the time. I mean, how many times does this not work for you to get an image like this?
99% for the most part. I mean, you can get yourself in the ballpark because you have to study and look at the the preferred perches and spots and movements and the like. But for the most part, it doesn't work. You can get yourself in the right area, and then you just have to just keep trying and trying. Normally in the spring, if I have multiple camera trap setups, I'll come up with maybe 2 or 3 images, and I'm happy. That's a lot. Sometimes nothing.
Yeah. No, you're really, actually we should do a live on camera trapping, because you wrote an article, didn't you, for a Wild Read, a few months ago, which was in the 2nd edition, I think. So, if people aren't signed up for that, go and sign up for it, and because you can download the PDFs. And we should do a live on that, because that's a really interesting subject. I mean, it's not something I've done, beyond putting out trail cams and just picking things up and seeing where, the trails that they use and the paths that they use in the woods. But yeah, it's a really interesting subject, because obviously, going back to Kurum's shot of the skunk last year with a camera trap,
Mhm.
you know, on his decking. You know, it's a really interesting subject. I mean, I said it's not something I've ever done, so it'd be interesting to to have a good chat about that.
And one thing that's really interesting too, the smaller the animal, the smaller the space that can define its habitat. So even if you look here, I mean, this isn't a
Yeah,
wide vista. I mean, you're only looking at, a very small area. So, the size of the animal and where it goes can define the amount of space that can accurately describe its habitat, which I think is
yeah.
interesting.
But you know, you are telling a story with this image, aren't you? And I
Yep.
think space really gives people a good opportunity to do that in their photographs. I mean, Adam Stunckel's winning image from last year is a
Mm,
great example of that.
yeah.
It's just that the owl in the in
And
that forest.
what blew me away on that shot, by the way, Rob, is that there were actually two owls. There was another owl
Yes,
in the distance that I missed until
yeah,
he
me
actually
too.
brought that up.
And you go, oh, yeah, I know.
It- it-
It's a hidden
yeah.
little treasure. Yeah,
Absolutely.
hidden
And
little
you bring
treasure.
up a good point too, because with these images, they could be artistic, they could be minimalistic, they could emphasize textures, lines, or they could also tell stories too. I mean, there's so many
Yeah.
different ways you can interpret the category, which makes it really, really versatile.
Yeah. No, I mean, it was one of my favorite categories from last year. There was so much, as you say, so much diversity in it. So I'm really looking forward to what people have got to offer this year. I think it's,
Hmm.
this is one of the categories I think is just going to run and run because it is, so broad. I think when we do categories that are perhaps tighter, eyes is a good example. You kind of get to the point where, you know, it's difficult to reinterpret that category and do something that hasn't already been done.
Hmm.
Whereas this is much broader, and I think the longevity of it is therefore much greater. So, yeah. Anyway, okay, let's
I
see what
think
I've
I think
got.
it's in line with the trend of wildlife photography too. I think
Yeah,
over the past couple of years, I've seen, even in North America, which I think is a bit behind, in my opinion, some other parts of the world when it comes to artistic. It's more literal, in my opinion. But there's been a transition over the past number of years to go from primarily telephoto images to mid-range telephotos and wider angle shots, and that's
yeah,
really where the trend is going. And I see it going even further. The challenge is, I think, moving forward, doing it and also being ethical at the same time. So,
yeah. Absolutely. Okay, so what are I don't think it really matters what I've got, does it? Well,
listen,
this is my oyster catcher, um, and there is a story to this. And I think I've told this story before. I think on one of these lives, but um, this you're not a Harry Potter fan, are you?
I've seen, I think the first two movies.
Right.
I'm a big Lord of the Rings nerd, but not
Yeah,
not
me
Harry
too.
Potter, unfortunately. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, for anybody who's seen Harry Potter, one of the saddest moments in the series of films, I think, is when the house elf dies, Dobby. He gets killed by Bellatrix Lestrange as he's apparating away from the Malfoys' mansion, and they end up apparating to this beach where I think one of the Weasleys has got a house or whatever. So it's a safe house, and Dobby ends up dying on this beach. Well, this is that beach where they filmed that. It's in Wales, in South Wales, and so we went, and it was so windy that day, and it was chucking it down with rain at times. And well, anyway, and so I thought, I'm not going to get it. I mean, we were there for a holiday anyway. I mean, it wasn't a serious sort of shooting break, but I took the camera anyway, and then there was this sort of slight break in the cloud, and these oyster catchers were sort of running along these rocks, and I thought, oh, if I were on my own and I didn't have the dog and what have you, then I think I'd be really, I'd get really up close to that. I just sort of pick my way through the rocks and just sit and wait. But I thought I don't have that, opportunity. The light's going to go anyway, and actually, if I can get one on top of a rock, because you know what they do, they sort of scurry around and they're foraging around, and they don't they don't just stand up on top of those rocks just like that. That's moving along the rock, and it's not standing still. And then so the light came, the oyster catcher sat on top of the rock, and then this huge wave broke over behind it, and I thought, fabulous. So I just rattled off a series of frames, and this is the best one from that series. I always pick fault with my pictures because I think you should. That's the way you improve. I just wish it turned 5 degrees further towards me, so it was bang side on. But apart from that, I really like it because I like the textures of the rocks. I like the light. I like the breaking wave. It tells everything about that bird's environment. And a great place to go. It's such a picturesque place as well. If you've never been, it's called Freshwater West, because there's two. There's Freshwater East and Freshwater West, but the beach is called Freshwater West in Wales. So if you get a chance to go, do, because it's fabulous.
I love the breaking wave, Rob. You could feel the power of the wave and the surge coming through on that. It's very, very cool. The oyster catchers we have over here, I see a lot of them just on sandy beaches in calm areas. To see them in this type of habitat is actually really cool.
Yeah, and there were 2 or 3 of them, and had I had more light, had I had more time, I probably would have tried to get a bit closer and get something a little closer. But actually, that it really works. I just looked at all the elements and thought, no, hang on a minute, take a step back, think slightly differently. And I have to say, it is the competition that I have to thank for the way I think about things now. I don't always have to get close. It's not a question, if you can't get close, you walk away and try another day. If you can't get close, well, hang on a minute, you've got the opportunity to do something else. And why not go out and do this on purpose anyway? So
absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
I think the oyster catcher was examining the wave as well.
Yeah, it probably was. That's probably why it's turned away to me. It's like, oh, hang on, I'm just checking that out. Just get what, see if it wipes me out. I had them in flight as well. They were coming in across these in flight, but I just didn't get a perfect one.
They're pretty noisy when they fly too. I don't know if it's just, what species is this, Rob, in England? Is it
Eurasian?
Eurasian,
yeah. So
the Americans are very, well, the American oyster catchers, I should say, are very noisy in flight.
Yeah, well, no comment. Present company, except. Oh dear. Okay, so there you have it, people. You've got my oyster catcher, or Josh's thrush, hermit thrush. Oh, jeez. When these came paired out together, I thought I've got a really good chance with this oyster catcher, and then it paired against the thrush, and I just thought, oh yeah, okay. Anyway, it is what it is. So let's have a let's sort of see what people think, and let's have some votes in, and we can talk about something else. Oh dear. So space is basically running over June. I mean, it is open now, as people will know, but it runs to the end of June. So you've got until the end of June to go out and shoot something. I mean, you've got plenty of time actually to shoot specifically for the category, and that's not a bad tactic, actually, is it, Josh?
No, not at all. Because you're seeing these pictures, you're hearing our thoughts, and being able to go into the field with that understanding helps. I think it's an advantage in a way, because in a way what we're looking for, but also too, it's great to be surprised. I've in co-judging and judging some of the categories for WildArt, and it never ceases to amaze me. There's always an expectation of what you think may come in, but you always get surprised because there's different interpretations of the category and the brief, and it's amazing to see what comes in, and just the outside the box thinking you'll see from some photographers. It's very refreshing.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, no, it's, as I said, I've just been blown away by the standard, and I look forward to going through them. It's an absolute pleasure to go through all those images, at the end of the month, and just sort of see what's come in, and I sort of earmark my favorites, in my head, and then let the judges have a good look through them. And but no, it's always a pleasure to, and as you say, I'm always surprised, by at least 2 or 3 dozen images, and that is a lot in a competition to really surprise you, because there's some great stuff in there. You might have seen similar things before, but it might be a really good example of something. But then there are these images that really stick out, and I think that's one really good tip for people, is originality. I've said this before. You as a judge, you like to see originality in images. You like to see something that you've not really seen before, or something taken in a slightly different way. So if you can give something a bit of a new twist, then I think that's, and the execution of it is great. Then I think you've got a really good chance. You've got a really good chance. I did a video actually the other day on sort of the top 5 mistakes actually of entering photo competitions. So go check that out. There's a few little hints and tips. I think what I might do is give you my 5 do's as well as my don'ts, because don'ts is a bit negative. I'll give you my do's as well when I get some time to do that one.
I had a look at your video, Rob. By the way, it was excellent. And the one thing I will say, one thing you mentioned, spoiler alert on Rob's video, but social media sharing. I know, when you get an image, you're excited about it and you want people to see it, and you want that feedback. But it's very difficult for folks, I think, because when you talk about originality, Rob, I think sometimes what hits the judges hard is when you see an incredible image that you've never seen before, and social media can sometimes take that away. So.
Yeah, it can. So I mean, that's one of the top things, I think. If you've got an image that you've taken, as I said in the video, I know what it's like. You take this amazing picture and you want to share it. You want to sort of share it with the world. But if you're entering competitions, think before you do that and go, actually, if I want to enter into a competition, do I want to show the world this image? Is it going to lose its impact? Shove it in a folder marked competition entries, and don't share it with everybody, because it kind of, because the judges will, or some of the judges will have seen it. If it does as well on social media as you think it will, and it's as good an image as you think it is, they will see it, and it kind of loses a bit of impact. So save it. So
I think category selection too is an important one you mentioned, especially I would say for WildArt, because there's 10 categories. When you look at a lot of other photo competitions, the categories can be, birds, mammals, behavior, right? And it's a lot easier to discern where your picture can fall. But I remember last year, and even this year, there's so many images that come in and they can drop in multiple categories, but some could be stronger than others. So picking the category is very important.
Is really important. Yeah, think very carefully. And as I said, you may find that you've got an image that doesn't fit any of the categories. Well, I would say find another competition where it does fit. Not not talking about wild art in particular, because I think probably there is a category there for everybody, for pretty much every image. But and shooting specifically for categories as well, I think is a really good tactic. So. Yeah, what else was it? What else did I? Oh, and I tell you the other thing, I am going to give it this bit of advice to people as well, and I share this in the video, is that quite a lot of the time, if you have had an amazing situation, and I had the perfect one with those courting swans and the copulating swans that I took, is that you have this amazing thing happen in front of you, and you get the opportunity to shoot hundreds of pictures. And with those swans, I literally took 1,500 or 2,000 pictures. I kid you not, because it just went on for like 10 minutes. And there were all these sort of, there were these phases of the courtship, and then they were drifting in and out of this amazing light. And I couldn't not take them. So I had all these images. So I had all these images to go through. And I knew actually that I don't enter a lot of competitions myself, but I knew that there I had a competition entry for sure. So I didn't share. I picked one image in the end. It was really hard, but I picked one image in the end, and I shared a couple of other things that weren't anywhere near what I was going to use for a competition on social media. I did share those, but I just shared one. I literally entered one image into the competition, and I came second. So it just goes to show, if I'd have entered 5 or 6 images out of that sequence because I couldn't decide which image was best, I would have split the vote of the judges and I'd have come nowhere, because I'd have created competition for myself. So it's really important, I think, for people, as a bit of advice for people, is to do your own editing when it comes to images in terms of selection, and just pick the best one. We're all different. I mean, it may well be that the judges, had they seen all of the images, would prefer one image over another. But if you don't give them that choice, then they focus on that one image, and if it's good, it'll do well. So that's a good tip. Don't enter similars, because it just, I see it every time. It splits votes. and you're not doing yourself any favors. So, and from a competition organizer's point of view, the more images you enter, the better, because the more of your entry package you're using up, you have to go and buy some more. So it's great for me, but as an entrant, because I'm guessing that's what you do when you enter, the competitions that you enter, Josh.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. The least amount of options you give the judges, I think, is a good thing. And there's always, and again, I think it's always the taste of the photographer. I mean, we've all been out in the field and had an incredible sequence of images, and it ultimately comes down to what image stands out or what image do you like the best. And for me, I normally go with my gut. It's an image that just stirs something in me when I look at it. I'm like, that's the one. And you know it when you see it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, and if you could always use some of the others for another competition.
Yes, this is true. And by the way, it's harder today. I mean, I was actually just shooting shorebirds, and I had the R3 with me, the Canon R3, and I'm shooting 30 frames a second. So if there's a sequence you like, it's a lot more difficult. It's longer on the call, but you have more options, which is a good thing. But
yeah,
it makes choosing that image.
It can be a good and a bad thing, can't it? That sort of frame rate.
Absolutely. I mean, years ago, I was shooting with the 5D Mark IV, so I was 7 frames a second. So I'm more than triple that. I'm almost 4 times, frankly. So
it's unbelievable, isn't it? Anyway, right. Should we have a tot up? Okay. Right. Oh, blimey. Okay. We've had quite a few in. Right. Okay, let me start at the beginning, because we've had quite a few comments as well. Okay, so Jane O'Connor's first. She said the moss is just gorgeous. Talking about your thrush, what a beautiful thrush. Yeah. Ben Pullett's focusing always find hard with the camera trapping. Okay, well, I tell you what, he's Ben's asking about the focal point on your camera trap. Let's come back to that. After we've done the next set of images. Okay. So don't let me forget. So this always finds it hard focusing with camera trapping. So we'll come back to that, Ben. So Eli Porrett says, I agree. I think Europe, for example, is ahead regarding creative photography. So that goes back to your comment, about Europe and North America and the creativity. Immediately saw that. Yeah. So Eli's going on about the Shell Cottage, and this is where Shell Cottage was in the film, the Harry Potter film. So anybody who's seen, I think is it the last film? I think it is the start of the last film, or the end of the penultimate film and the start of the last film is when that scene comes in. Anyway, so on to the voting. Alan James is first up. He says the oyster catcher, like the way the wave is breaking in the background. Thank you. So that's one to Rob. Rachel Piper says, I don't agree with the angle of the oyster catcher. It's looking at the waves. Okay, thank you, Rachel. I guess we're all different, aren't we? Is that a vote? Is that a vote for me, Rachel? Okay, JG says, love both shots. I can't vote. Sitting on the fence. Okay, Fred says it's Rob this time. Love this. So that's at least 2 for me. Rachel needs to confirm her vote for you or me, I think. Hang on, no, it's all right. I get to the next one. I feel the same, but JG, but Rob won't let us get away with it. Oh, so Rachel sat on the fence as well. So yeah, so that's not a vote. So what are we up to? Is that 2 for me? 1. Hang on, I'm gonna have to keep close count because I need to win this. Okay, let's have a look. Eli Porat says, I love the hermit thrush, but in Rob's image, the position of the oyster catcher with the wave breaking and the background right behind it and the subtle leading lines of the water in the bottom of the frame make me want to vote for Rob. So my vote is you, Rob, this time. Thank you, Eli. That's what we like to hear. Checks in the post. Kurum Khan says the oyster catcher is powerful. The thrush is compositionally perfect and flow. It's a tough one. Perhaps by a hair, I would say Josh. Okay. Rachel's going with the oyster catcher because it's dramatic and makes me want to be there. I'm just glad I'm not a real judge. Yeah, me too. Me too. Mal Lostwick says both great images, but I like the oyster catcher for the drama of the waves. Vicky Santello says I'm going with the oyster catcher on the time of space. I have a sense of a more varied environment with Rob's image, even though Josh's is awesome. Ben Pullet says Josh. Yeah, Kuram's deducting points for the oyster catcher looking away. Yeah. JG, if I have to choose, it would be Rob. I love oyster catchers. Jane O'Connor says I really love both, but for me, the energy of the waves and the solitary oyster catcher on the rocks gets my vote this time. Rachel says no, I love the angle of the oyster catcher. Vicky says that should be theme, not time. Okay, so I think that's me, isn't it? I think, have I got this one? I think I have. I can't believe I've beaten the hermit thrush. I knew this was going to be a strong image, but when I drew it against
it's a great shot. Yeah.
No. Anyway, thank you, people. That keeps me in it. Not for long. Not for long. Anyway, let's go and change this then. Okay. At least it's not a whitewash. Right. Okay, 2-1. Right, what have we got next? Okay. Oh. Come on. More snow.
I know, more snow.
Yeah.
We're coming out of winter, right? So yeah, this shot, we were trying to think where this was. I think this might have been near Hayden Valley. This was in Yellowstone in winter. And when I saw this shot, it framed up. The lines are great. You have the stream coming out of the lower right hand of the frame, and it kind of meanders through. And you had the bison on the side. It just reminds me of the American West. You know, there's certain images I think of that just feel like the American West. This kind of spoke to me when I saw this scene. The geyser activity in the back, I think, is really cool. Kind of defines the environment for Yellowstone. Yeah. It's very iconic of Yellowstone. And there's always like these little nuggets we were talking about with Adam Stunkle's barred owl image, how there was another owl in the image. And if you look hard enough, it's hard to tell on the screen, but there's actually a geyser viewing platform in the background. And there's a family watching the geyser actually that you can see.
Oh, right. Back, yes. I can see it just here.
And again, it's just like, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So there's always like these little subtle details. And I kind of like that stuff. Whenever I take images, I always look for subtlety. I think subtlety, in my opinion, is even more stronger when it comes to image making than just, boom, juicy light, and the like. You have a great metaphor for this, Rob. You talk about chocolatey images, right?
Yeah.
Images that chocolate, it hits you at first. But so anyhow, I really like this image, and it was something. It took a long time for the bison to look up. I was on the other side of the stream, just waiting, and it was just, if you've ever watched bison in the field, they'll graze and graze.
Yeah,
and
they
sometimes
do.
They will not lift their head up. And it was quite a long time, and then finally. He lifted his head up and he kind of gave a back turn, which was just the amount of engagement I wanted in the image.
Yeah, because you don't want a butt shot, do you? Because it just wouldn't work. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, and I like the cool tones too. And again, I'm a bit in the minority on this. A lot of photographers like warmer tones. I don't mind cooler tones. So sometimes even in post, when I'm adjusting the temperature slider, I'll go cooler than I will warmer.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
It's people think warmer is sexier, obviously, and I get it. But I do like the cooler tones and different shades of blue. I find it interesting and calming, actually, too. It's a calming color.
Yeah.
And the panel crop,
this is the sort of thing that you'd print and put on your wall, because as you say, there's so much going on. There's so much interest here. I mean, it's almost this works as a landscape shot, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But that. The bison being the focal point, because your eyes meandering with the river, and then but the contrast in tone of the bison makes it stand out immediately. It's boom, it's there, because everything else is cool, but you've got that warmth with its fur, and it's just.
It helps to anchor, I think, the image a little bit, and the textures along the stream I thought were cool as well, that you can see from the ice there.
Yeah, you're going very Yellowstone though, aren't you?
This was a recent shoot, so I guess yeah.
Okay, let's see what I can't remember what's next, actually. Oh yes, I can. Yeah, so this is Richardson's ground squirrel, which I took in Canada. And this is with a wide angle lens. And I tell you, this thing was no more than 12 inches away from the front of the lens. And when I took this, I can't believe there's no camera shake. I was absolutely cracked up laughing, because it was just, we'd seen this thing pop up on this rock. And I was with a bunch of friends, and they're all, while I'm taking this picture, I'm lying down in the dirt, which is my normal position, and they're all stood about 10 yards behind me, waiting for this thing to just pop up, and they're telling me, oh, it's coming, because of course I'm looking through the viewfinder thinking, because it happens really, really quickly, this thing would just pop up, and as I was lying down, this thing actually ran over my legs. It's before it popped up here, and so they're all cracked up laughing because it's running over my legs. Then and I don't know what they're laughing about, and then it popped up in front of me, and I couldn't stop laughing because it was just so comical. Because these things, if people haven't haven't seen ground squirrels, they are just the funniest animals. They are the funniest things.
Yeah, charismatic.
Yeah. And this thing just popped up, and I'm absolutely I'm already lying down, but if I weren't lying down, I'd be on the floor, because I was just laughing and so how I got this, I'll never know. I got a series of about half a dozen, I suppose, but I just like this because I chose it because it was a rock right on the edge of the the valley, and I just thought I can get the whole of that valley in. If it comes and sits on that rock, brilliant. I mean, I know it's kind of middle of the day, it's a bit harsh in terms of the lighting, but it's a great memory for me. I just love that. It makes me laugh every time I see it, even now, because I mean, I took this 6 years ago, but it still makes me laugh because I just remember the situation. It's hilarious. Anyway, fantastic little animal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll go back to Josh's.
As well. One thing I'll mention, Ben was asking before on camera traps and focusing. One thing I'll say, Ben, really quickly on that, manual focus to the area you think the animal may show up in, and it's a crapshoot. You get lucky sometimes, but F8 to F11, I'll normally stop down to. You're kind of give yourself some room. So if it's a little bit off, you can always do a bit of extra sharpening in post. But you don't want to stop down too much if you're F16, F18, where, especially in a forested environment, when you have a lot of textures and things in the background, if that all comes into focus, it can be distracting. Yeah. So it's that balance between allowing enough room to capture something that's relatively sharp, but at the same time, rendering your background a little bit soft where it's not distracting for your subject. So it's
okay. Let's delve into that a little bit more. If people want to start voting on those two pictures, so it's the bison and the ground squirrel, I think I might know where this will go. But then again, look, my pictures are so much more diverse than Josh's. He's just picking Yellowstone. I'm going all over.
This is true.
Anything to give me an edge. No, camera trapping isn't something I've done, and it's something I do want to try. But what would be the best piece of advice you could give to somebody who's just sort of starting out and wants to give it a go? And if, for example, what's your trigger system?
I use Chemtraptions. I've been using that for a number of years now, and the support that they have is what's his name? Not WildArt, Lucas's brother. I forgot. Anyhow, Lucas runs. It's out of England, actually, as a matter of fact.
That's right.
I have Chemtraptions. I have a few other ones too, just stuff I've bought from third-party brands and stuff from Amazon and so forth. But the biggest piece of advice I would give when it comes to trapping and setting things up, it ultimately comes down to understanding your subject. Before you set up your camera trap, you should do a lot of scouting. Look at the subject, look at its movement, try to figure out, where the animal's moving, how does the animal like to behave. The more you understand the animal, where its movements are, the better prepared you are to set up the trap. Because I think there's a lot of learning and study that goes into the setup versus the other way around. If you set something up and just hope something's going to show up, you might get lucky, but probably not.
Yeah.
That would be the biggest piece of
excuse me. Do you use camera traps in terms of the cheaper ones, just to work out where things are?
Yeah,
the sort of trail cams.
Sometimes I do. Yeah. Sometimes I'll use the trail cams. Also, too, a lot of times I'll set camera traps up on areas that are private lands, family members, and so forth. and they give me a lot of information. So I'm going into it too, because they're outdoorsmen, and I have some family in Pennsylvania where I do a lot of my camera trapping, and they know where all the animals are, and they can give me some information, and that gives me a head start as well. So, but yeah, trail cams are a good idea, to just kind of get an idea of where things go, and then of course there's other things you can look at: animal scat, trail marks, and different things like that.
I was going to mention
in the
that.
In the
Actually,
wintertime, it's easier, certainly, because you could see trail markings a lot easier in the wintertime.
No, I was going to mention that because it comes back to good old fieldcraft, doesn't it? And using things like, using things like scat and as I said, well-trodden paths, which obviously aren't human paths, they're animal trails, and just sticking. I mean, I've done that. You just stick a trail cam and just find out what's using that path. And I've had badgers and deer and foxes and all sorts of things. I mean, it's not a lot to choose from in the UK, really. You've got a much better variety of animal, but anyway.
There's certain things in the UK I'm jealous of. I'd love to be near Skomer. I'd love to shoot mountain hare, the hares up in Scotland. There's so many great things to shoot, but
and here I am. I haven't shot mountain hares before. I should get and do it, really. And I haven't been to Skomer before. That's on my list. And I never seem to get around to it for some reason. Too busy doing this sort of thing.
Yeah, you should try to get the Skomer. I don't know how far is that from you, Rob? Is that far?
Oh, it'll be it's like a 3 or 4 hour drive, and then it's just so it's like no distance at all. I could go and do it in a day, if I wanted to. Nice. So the problem I have with it is that if you want to do a day trip, you get there at the worst time for the light. So it's all harsh, and I want that. So you have to stay, and there's a waiting list to stay on the island. So I always feel like I should get my name down on there, but things always happen, and anyway, I should just do it. Yeah, definitely.
The puffin opportunities in the States are nowhere near what Skomer has. Skomer is one of the best.
That and Shetland as well. And I am going to Shetland next year. I was supposed to go this year, but we talked about this the other night when Rebecca was on the call as well. But no, I'm going to go. Jennifer and I are going to go up next year, in I think beginning of June. So it's we were Rebecca was part of the judging team for Eyes, and we were all on a call the other night, and it was what was it? Ended up being about 10 o'clock here, didn't it? Something like that, which would have been sort of 5 or 6 with you. Something, it was about that 10, half 10, and it was still light.
Yeah, that's why I was wondering what time of day it was, because it was light outside.
Yeah, it was still light. Because you're so far north. But the problem with that is it never gets light in the winter. Anyway, let's have a little tot up and see. I think I know where this is going. Right. Okay. So Mal Ostwick's first in. He says, "Sorry, Rob, it's Josh's. Reminds me of a scene from the Revenant movie."
Great movie.
Great movie. Apart from the unbelievable bear attack, I think at the start. In fact, I tell you, I watched that film on the way over to Canada when I shot the ground squirrel on that trip. I watched it on the plane.
It's a good way to get you fired up for North American frontier.
Yeah, and make sure I have my bear spray with me. Right, Rachel Piper says, "Yours made me smile, Rob. Josh for me this time. It's dramatic." JG, Josh for me on this one. Still a great shot, Rob. Fred says, "It's the bison for me." Alan James, "Sorry, Rob, it's Josh this time. The ground squirrel looks like it's just photobombed the picture." I was waiting for it. Ben Pullett says, "Josh is bison." Kurum says, "Both are excellent. The gesture on the squirrel makes it for me, and the subtle beauty of Yellowstone. It's a tie." Half a point. Oh no, Josh for me in the end. So I still don't get a point. Oh, you've wiped the floor with me. Vicky says, "Both are excellent images. My vote goes to the ground squirrel." Hey, because I haven't seen that composition before. That makes it more unique for me than Josh's, which is iconic. Sorry, Josh. Love your image. Rachel says, "Stay on the Isle of May. It's amazing." Yeah, I have to do that. So you've wiped the floor with me on that one, and it means you've taken an unassailable lead. That's the first time this has happened, actually. It's always gone down to the last picture before. Okay, so I'm going to have to change the score, aren't I?
move it up to, we could do 6 images. We'll throw in it and we'll go.
Yeah. Hang on. Let's just change the, because, well, we are over an hour in, so oops. So yeah, maybe 6 images wouldn't be great. Okay. Yeah. Let's just
but intermission bathroom break and
yeah. Go and get an ice cream. Right. We'll show that then. So Josh takes an unassailable lead into the final round. Let's see what's next. Okay, so I'll go past the losing ground squirrel. Right. Oxpecker. Red billed.
Yeah, this was in Kenya, actually, a couple of years ago in the Masai Mara. And I call this image coexistence, obviously, because, you know, oxpeckers and Cape buffalo, they in some ways rely upon each other. Although I think the oxpeckers get the better deal out of the interaction. But what I liked about this image is, you know, when you look at, and I was talking a little bit before around the size of the animal and the definition of what that environment can be relative to the animal size. And what I think is so kind of cool and what made me think of putting this image together is that a Cape buffalo or a large bovine can actually constitute an entire environment or ecosystem for a bird like the oxpecker here. I like that it was perched on the resting. You could see the hoof coming out, and it made for a perfect perch for the oxpecker. Yeah. And
I was going to say, you should call this on the hoof.
On the hoof, yeah, exactly. That's actually better than coexistence. Coexistence is too scientific maybe, but I like on the hoof. And of course, you know, the buffalo's the entirety of the background there, with the exception of some of the grass in the foreground, which I thought was kind of cool. The eyes seem to look at each other as well. You can see the buffalo's eye in the upper left, and the oxpecker is almost kind of looking in that direction. Again,
I like
a smaller space, but environmental.
It's a tighter sort of crop on space, really, isn't it? A tighter sort of outlook on space, but it works because, as you say, this is the environment, you know, these guys work in. Because I mean, I've seen a lot of oxpecker pictures, and the classic, you know, we're collecting, you know, what we have parasites from all sorts of places. Do you remember that? Do you remember the giraffe image in Bird Photographer?
I've seen plenty. I'm not sure about that one.
Where it's underneath the animal, so you know where it's removing parasites from.
I don't remember that one, but yeah. Hopefully it was a tickle.
Yeah, I think it's in the 4th book or something. Anyway, it's in one of the books. Check it out. It's hilarious. Okay. It's on the shelf here somewhere. But no, it was hilarious. Made me laugh. But no, that's a really good example of using a different interpretation on space. You know, because it is broad. It's, you know, it is open to your own take on it, as long as that sort of comes across in the image. So okay, so what have I got? Okay, well, this is so a bird against bird again. It's just the way it came out. I took this. I went to see David Tippling actually last year, and he promised me dancing adders, which I've never ever seen, and he's got a really reliable site for them. And you couldn't have got a better day for it, because it was sunny. It was the right time of the year. They'd sloughed their skins, which is normally when the males will then start, you know, this sort of what they do is they sort of try and push each other's heads down. So they're sort of slithering along, and they're trying to, you know, trying to work out the sort of superiority from the other, obviously for mating rights. And it's a really rare thing to see, but David says he sees it every year at this site. So he said, yeah, come along, Rob. He said they've sloughed, I reckon, this morning. So drive to Norfolk to go and see this is a good 4.5 hour drive for me. And I did it. I was there and back in a day. So it's like 9 or 10 hours of driving in a day just to see it. Wow. I saw plenty of adders, but I didn't see the dancing. So because it's on an area of heathland, and it was a really lovely day, and a lot of the migrants are coming in, so I got really good chiff chaff and that sort of thing. A lot of the warblers were coming in, and we got Dartford warbler as well, really quite nicely. But then we had linnet as well, which would come and land on the top of the gorse. And I saw this one just sitting there, and I love what a silver birch in the background, actually. It just created this really nice texture. And I thought that looks really quite nice with a gorse which is just coming into flower. And if I frame the birds, it's small in the frame, and I put it in one corner, so it's breaking all the rules. It's not sat on a third or anything. I thought that actually really works. And when I got it back and I looked at the series of images, I was really pleased with them. And I just thought, actually, no, that tells the story of that bird's habitat perfectly, because it's heathland, which is gorse and silver birch, and it's just how you see them, perched on top of something, singing away. And yeah, it was just iconic of the species for me, which is why I chose it. Plus, Georgina really liked it as well. I think she put it on social media. So I thought, if Georgina likes it, it's good enough for me. So yeah, that's the story behind this. So yeah, this was last year in the spring when I went up to see David. And in fact, I have a habit of taking quite good images when I go and see him, because I took that. In fact, it's the background, to the broadcast. It's the black-headed gull against the rainbow. If you remember that one, anyway.
Okay. Yeah, that's a great shot.
Yeah. So so the choice is the oxpecker or the linnet. So I'm going to leave the linnet up this time around while we talk about something else. So if you want to get your votes in, let us know. Let us know which one you like. And am I going to save any face at all? Because it's been 3-2 every single time, for the last two goes. So I wonder. We'll see.
Hey Rob, is the linnet, is that a type of finch, by the way?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Okay. It almost looks like a pine siskin, which is a type of finch that we have.
Similar actually in terms of coloration. Yeah. It's quite similar. But no, it's a lovely bird. I don't see that many of them, or see them flying over, but I don't see them perched very often. Like that. Only at certain times of year or in certain places.
It's a pretty bird.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll wait and see what people have to say. I thought I'd mention I've still got the copy, or I have got the copy of the book, which is signed by Robert Irwin, and I've been wondering how we go about sort of auctioning that or doing something with it to raise some money for conservation. What I thought I'd do is, because we're going to Bird Fair, which I think mention last time, that I thought I would run a prize draw rather than an auction. So kind of like a lottery, like a raffle ticket type system. And we run it that weekend that I'm doing Bird Fair. So people can buy tickets at Bird Fair, or they can buy them online. And I've got some other great things as well. So it's not just the book. Cotton Carrier sent me one of their camera harnesses to put into the mix. And I thought I could do some prints, and we could do some book bundles as well with the WildArt book, and I think Andy's Tuning into Nature book, and David's Birds and People, and probably Victoria's Forgotten Little Creatures, that sort of thing. So put those book bundles in. So when I've sort of sorted out that the whole process, then I'll let people know what that is. But my thought process is raffle tickets at Bird Fair and online during that weekend. So if you can't get to Bird Fair, obviously there'll be a lot of people that can't because they're overseas. You can buy a raffle ticket online, and then we'll do the draw after the Bird Fair weekend, and I'll sort out getting those prizes to people. So that was my thought process, and I'll let everybody know. I'll let everybody know what how I sort of sort that out in due course. Also, if you didn't catch it, because I have to admit I forgot to post it on Facebook or run it live on Facebook, so my mistake. So it only went live on YouTube, so there might be a few people that didn't catch it. A couple of weeks ago I spoke to Rebecca Nason, and we did human nature. We did a video on human nature and what we're looking for in that category and what that's all about. So if you want sort of heads up on that and get an insight into it, then go and catch up with that, which is on the YouTube channel, because it's got some quite interesting, insightful stuff in there. And we talk about the category and what it's really all about. So of course that's a new one for this year. So go and check that out. And I think I've gotten everything I wanted to say. in terms of
Hey,
news and bits and pieces?
if I could just add one thing, and again, it's for the book, and I've been buying photography books for many years now, and I study them. I think the Wild Art book is incredible. And Rob, I have to say, how you set it up, the ratio and the size of the book, it does
Mm,
vertical images justice. And
yeah.
it's been a while. I think when you look at a lot of photography books, it's very difficult to
Well,
properly present great vertical images. And I think the layout that you have, it does justice to the verticals. It
thank
really
you.
does. It's great.
Well, to be honest, it was having experience with bird photographer, that because I knew that we always struggled with portrait images for that. I never felt that they were given enough room. So I thought, well, if I'm starting from scratch, I don't have to follow any format. Let's give, let's make it squarer to give those, images a bit more space. Talking about space, because they need it. I know the vast majority of stuff is landscape because that's the way we think, but actually that's probably quite a good subject, isn't it? Thinking about flipping the camera, and taking vertical images more often than we actually do. That's quite an interesting subject. Is that always in your mind when you're looking at things, is to flip it the other way, or do you get carried away in the moment?
Yeah, I always look vertical and horizontal. So I'm 3-2, 2-3. I'm always moving around. I guess it just depends on the subject, and after a while, you kind of get a bit of an instinct for, the posturing of the subject and the scene and everything else. But I like to go vertical. I actually prefer vertical shots even more so than the standard
Yeah,
landscape type images. I think sometimes they can just be a lot more interesting because they're not. It's not as common as the landscape or the 3-2
yeah, they can have a lot more
ratio.
impact, can't they, for that
I think so.
reason? Yeah.
hmm And even I used to years ago kind of avoid square crops in post production. There's a lot of images that came out of this contest that have more of a square crop, and I think look excellent. And in print, they look even better, in my opinion. The
Yeah,
one image, I think Rachel Piper's on the line,
she is. Yeah,
the
yeah.
spider web image, that one abstracts. I think that looks amazing
It
in
does,
the
doesn't
book.
it?
That it
Yeah.
was Rachel, I believe, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it was Rachel. Yeah.
Yeah, amazing image, Rachel, and it looks
Yeah.
amazing in print, by the way. I
Yeah.
enjoyed it even more in print when I saw it.
Do you know, that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, we can look at all these things online, but when you print something, if you print it for yourself on a piece of fine art paper, or you collate these collections in a book, it just adds so much more to it. So if you haven't got a copy of the book, then do please go on and buy a copy. I mean, the book is a really important way for me to fund the whole thing. It's a really important element, because without funding, this thing can't run, because it takes a lot of time, a lot of organization, and it's one of those things that it's just an important element. So if you haven't bought a copy, do me and yourself a favor, and get yourself a copy, because you won't regret it. It's a beautiful thing. I guess the problem is, sort of sending it abroad is so expensive, but there's not really a lot I can do about that. It is what it is, and particularly I know rates have gone up quite steeply to America, actually, in particular. I think over the last couple of years they went up quite significantly. It's one of those things I can't do anything about that, but it's well worth it.
And to
And
break up the category, one thing I'll say too: space images look great in print because you're actually seeing it as kind of the intention of how it should be seen.
yeah,
It's very difficult to look at these images on Instagram and some of the social media platforms, but as a photographer, I think the final phase of an image that you really like is truly the print. That's it's so satisfying to see that when you have an image in your hand. I love to do printing on my own. I've purchased a printer a couple of years ago, and I've been playing around with it. And it's something. It's like photography. You have to be a student of it in terms of understanding how to print and what
I
to
tell you,
do.
that's
And
another
I enjoy
another
it. It's way
subject
more
for
fun than
discussion.
yeah,
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 yeah, it
much
is. I
more
mean,
fun than an image, digital
I
image.
mean, it'd be interesting to know how many people that are on tonight actually do print their images, but I bet it's not that many. If I were a betting man, I bet it's not that many people that regularly print images. I'm getting into it. In fact, there's literally a printer sat there, my A3 Plus. I've got an A3 Plus printer,
Mm,
and I've been experimenting with fine art papers, actually. I just
yeah.
chosen a really beautiful paper. I mean, it's not cheap.
Which paper are you using, Rob?
Photo Speed.
Okay.
I don't know
I've
whether
never
you've come
used it
across
before.
them. No, well, funny enough, they do a lot with the landscape guys, but they offer this such a range of textured paper. Some are brilliant white, some are sort of just got this sort of warm tint to them. Others are smooth, some are textured. So it depends. But I've gone with a very fine sort of textured white because I just think it just the colors are truer that way. I like the sort of warmer tones when you've got some of the landscapes and everything else. That works really, really well, and some of the textured papers. But no, it's a beautiful paper because I'm going to be selling some prints, I think, at Bird Fair as well of my some of my work. So I wanted to experiment, and but no, they come out beautifully.
Texture paper is great when you feel it in your hand too. It's something when you pick it up, and normally what I do too when it comes to paper, I'll buy these sets of from Hahnemühle or some of these other manufacturers. You can get these variety packs and then play around, and
that's
then
what
you
I
can kind
did.
of get a better feel for what types of paper, whether you're it's a matte or a glossy image, and you play around. It's a lot of fun.
I'll tell you what this company do is they actually give you free a specific printer profile. They create a profile for you. So they send you an image to print. You print it on your paper of choice. You send it to them. They scan it and then they send you a profile. And I tell you, I've never ever had something come out that's just so like what I see on my screen. It's amazing. I mean, their generic profile for the paper was pretty good, but this is just like bang on. It's incredible. Cool. So anyway, right, shall we have a tot up of the scores and see where we're going with this one? Okay, right. Okay, so Ben Pullett says Rob, JG, Josh for me, Fred's going Oxpecker, so that's 2-1. Vicky's going Oxpecker for me. I love the concept of the buffalo being in the environment space for the Oxpecker. Also like the perch on the leg with the hoof showing. A twist on the theme of these two together. Okay, so what's that? 3-1. Mal Ostwick says it's the Linnet for me. See quite a few here at RSPB St Aidan's in similar situations. 3-2. Alan James, your Linnet this time, Rob. Great background, out of focus trees, but the Linnet and gorse are spot on. 3-all. Rachel Piper, they belong in different categories. I really like them both, but I'll go with Rob because I love the way the shallow depth of field works with the trees. 4-3. Jane O'Connor, the Oxpecker for me this time. It's a really dramatic image. 4-all. Oh dear. Rachel says thank you. Assume for your nice comments. Jane O'Connor says some really stunning pictures. Thank you both. That's a pleasure, Jane. We just do it for fun and hope you get something out of it and a bit of evening's entertainment. Kurum says he prints. Yeah. Some A3 plus Rob Hahnemühle. Yeah, JG, I never print mine. Yeah. Mal Ostwick would love to print some of my best images to a book, but don't know how to go about doing it. Well, we ought to do a live, actually, hadn't we? And Kurum says Rob for the vote. I think I get that 5-4, don't I? That was close. And seeing as you got rock paper scissors as well right at the start, shouldn't have let you, should I?
It's even. It's even.
So no, it's well. Technically speaking, it probably is, but we did rock paper scissors, so I'll stick by it. If you let me, but I think I just about sneaked this one. if you unless you demand a recount.
No, I'm good.
Okay.
I am American, but I don't need a recount.
Let's not go there. As long as you don't stamp your foot up and down and say it's all a fix. You're okay. Hold on. Let me just change this, and we'll wrap it up. Okay. Save that. Okay. So there you go. 3-2. The usual score, but Josh has it. Well done, Josh. I have to say, I'm surprised I did as well as I did against that set of images. When you sent it to me, I just thought, oh my word. I said to Jennifer, I just said, I've got no chance. with this lot. So I had to dig deep. I had to dig deep for that one. So that was a lot of fun.
No, it is. These are enjoyable. Yeah.
Yeah, they are. I just think, you know, we kind of told people what we wanted in space last year. They've seen, you know, what came in last year and what won. Obviously, you know, you didn't judge space last year. You know, you're in charge of it this year, so your take is maybe slightly different to, well, will be slightly different to Andy's, I'm sure, because everybody's got their own styles. So, you know, it's been really good from that point of view, but it's just good fun. And I hope along the way that, you know, people have basically picked up a few little nuggets of information, a few little hints and tips. And as I said, you know, do go and sign up and subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't, because I am doing a whole load of other stuff, you know, like we said about the just the thing, the hints for photo competitions, the things that I see, the mistakes I see quite often. But I'm also doing things like, well, Ostwick will tell you about photographing flowers with long lenses, that sort of thing. You know, the way I go about it, just to give you a few ideas to work on your own photography. You know, might open up an area that you've never really delved into before, because this competition does this for me. You know, we're talking about space, opens up that sort of idea of using perhaps a shorter focal length to give things a bit more room to breathe. So that's what this is all about. Anyway, Josh, thank you so much.
Sure. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
For your time. That was brilliant. That was a well-deserved win, I think, I have to say. So fantastic.
No, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was. Hang on the line, and we'll have a quick chat afterwards. But anyway, let's just a few last comments coming in. So, but let's do something on printing. I think that would be a really good topic, actually. So I write these ideas down on a piece of paper, and it's like this long. Get right. It's just huge. I don't know if I'll ever get to do them all, but anyway. Right. So Rachel Piper says, amazing photography. Thank you, Rachel. Jane O'Connor says, well done, both of you. A great session. Look forward to more soon. And JG, thank you both. Great evening. Some fabulous photography. Alan James, thanks, Rob and Josh. Great evening. Mal Ostwick, thank you both. Vicky Santello, super, thanks guys, always enjoyable, plus helps my creativity. Well, this is what it's all about. It's just about having fun and, you know, giving you a few ideas and inspiring you to go and do something a little different. So I hope that we've achieved that. So anyway, Josh, I said hang on the line, I'll just wrap it up and we'll have a quick chat afterwards. Right, let's get
thanks everybody.
Outro lined up. Okay, well, thank you everybody for watching. I hope you enjoyed that. It certainly seems as though you did from the comments, and thank you for all those sort of lovely comments on the images. I will be writing to everybody soon about dates for the silhouettes winners announcements when I've sorted that out with Andy. Look out for eyes, top 100 this week. And if you are in that, then do make sure you get me those images, the raws and the original high-res originals as soon as you can, because that'll help me out, because I think we're going for pretty sure we're going to go for a winner's announcement on the 19th of June. Because if we don't, Peter's then away, I think, for a couple of weeks. So we've got a small window with that one. So anyway, thanks for your patience with silhouettes, by the way, as well. I will get that sorted out as soon as I can. But anyway, thank you all very much for watching. I'll line up the outro, and we'll see you again next time. Not sure when the next live will be, but I'll send everybody an email and look out on the Facebook page and the YouTube channel for notifications of the next sort of live event. Anyway, have a good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining, and we'll see you again next time.